Let's take a trip down memory lane. Or should I say, a heist down at memory lane? It's the future year of 2011, and a bunch of Swedish guys who found themselves in a game development studio, endearingly named Overkill Software, are finishing off work on their first project in that studio, after the previous one, named Grin, went bankrupt due to some issues that came about when they were finalizing a deal with Square Enix on a game that was set in the Final Fantasy franchise, but we're in 2011, that's in the past, we're not talking about that.
Everybody get down on the ground! Okay, through the red door! Set up the drills. How to get the C4? We got police storming in. I'm lowering the winch. We got the cash. Let's get out of here.
What is that new project called? Stone Cold. Except, not really. That name didn't really stick around for the final release. There are some nods to it in the files, but the final name chosen for their new action-packed 4-player cooperative shooter? Payday the Heist. Not a very creative name, but one that would definitely stick around. On the marketing side, big things were happening. One of the founders, Bo Anderson, the brother to Ulf Anderson, who not only worked on the game but also appeared in it, was finalizing a publishing deal. A publishing deal with whom, you might ask? None other than Sony Online Entertainment. This was a major deal, considering the fact that this was their first major product as Overkill Software. So with a name set in stone cold, a publishing deal on hand, it is time to rev up those fryers. The main thing that Payday the Heist was advertised with was the fact that it was supposed to be a AAA experience and half the price of a full-price title. It is now the 18th of October. Payday the Heist was supposed to come out a few weeks ago, but due to some complications, the game was delayed for a bit. How was it received when it finally launched? Well, it was alright. Average to above average reviews. The players seemingly enjoyed it more than the reviewers. The replayable nature of the heist in conjunction with the resource management spin on Left 4 Dead style of cooperative gameplay made for an enjoyable experience. Considering the price point, I think it was very much worth your time. While selling around 700,000 copies over the course of the next year, they ended up providing some quality of life updates on top of a DLC and a free heist called No Mercy, which was actually a crossover with Valve Software and their Left 4 Dead game. Just from those facts alone, one could probably assume that the game was a small success. Well, you wouldn't be entirely wrong, but you also wouldn't be entirely right either. Overkill Software started working on a sequel to Payday the Heist pretty soon after the afterglow had worn off. The development, however, proved to be quite costly, which put them into a tough spot. All the while, another development studio by the name of Starbreeze Studios wasn't doing too hot either. After the release of the Syndicate reboot, which was published by EA, Starbreeze was struggling. In an effort to save themselves, and an effort for Overkill Software to ensure that development of Payday 2 could continue as promised, the two entities merged. The official deal is that Starbreeze acquired Overkill Software. The unofficial deal is that Overkill's investors became a majority shareholder of Starbreeze. As development continued on Payday 2, 505 Games were pulled in as a publisher. And the rest is kind of history. Payday 2 was a massive success. Thousands of DLCs, thousands of hours played, no drama, no extras, no nothing. Except, that's not really the point of this video. I could go on for hours and hours about all the little things that happened during the course of Payday 2's lifespan, but instead, I will just give you a small summary of my personal experience with the game. Payday 2 is the game that got me into the franchise. I found a lot of my long-term online friends through it. I've introduced a lot of my longtime friends to it, and I've spent even more time in and around the community, more than anything else in my life, really. Payday, as much as I hate to admit it, is a major part of my life, and I will never be able to forget the moments that I've had with friends who have since passed away, moved on, or are just friends that I no longer talk to because of personal reasons. That being said, the Payday 2 that I played, and the Payday 2 that you, the viewer, might have played, are two very different games. Around 2015 or 2016 or so, Jules became lead game designer. All of his decisions made the game worse. There is no room for argument here. Payday 2 in its current Julesified state is misery to play. I do not like this game. It would be a lie to claim the game wasn't successful though. Saving these guys from bankruptcy around like 3 times in the last 10 years. With all that out of the way, we are finally at the present day. That's a lot of backstory for a game that I've played a total of 60 hours of, huh? Trust me, there's a reason. I had a lot of feelings about this game. The build-up was actually very uneventful for me. I watched the teasers, I watched the trailers, I saw some leaks, but I did not keep up with the devlogs. Friends of mine came about, they said hi, they told me about Payday 3, they told me about the times that we had with the other games, and I just didn't really feel anything, you know? I think a part of that is definitely me having had a COD phase for the last 2 years. And that is actually a really perfect tie-in to my problems with Payday 3 as a whole. Much like Call of Duty, Payday 3 just doesn't really feel unique. There's nothing that stands out, and more often than not, it just really manages to not impress. Going with the Payday the Heist comparison here, this game isn't $70 either. It's $40. There are special editions, which will give you extra stuff, which you were supposed to be able to upgrade to if you own, for example, the standard edition. But they decided that they couldn't do that for whatever reason. You know, because, yeah, exactly. There are a lot of things that are fundamentally wrong with Payday 3, even just outside of basic gameplay presentation. You have crossplay for a game that was, and has always been, primarily played on PC. I'm not saying that there is no console player base or that there has never been a console player base for any of the previous games. However, Payday the Heist launched as a PlayStation 3 title, which a few weeks later ended up on PC. Payday 2 launched as a multi-platform title, this time even including the Xbox 360. Later on, they even launched it on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch. It's crazy. Do you know what all these ports have in common? They're outdated. They are abandoned. They're not up to par with the PC versions whatsoever. The Switch port was so weak that it got abandoned about 3 months after release. And in turn, we got the abysmal Nintendo tie-in character on PC. When you play as Joy in Payday 3, remember that you're playing as the embodiment of a capitalistic nightmare. Don't get me wrong, I am not saying that crossplay is a bad thing. Absolutely not. In a PvE game, crossplay can definitely help extend lifespan. But there are so many issues here that extend beyond the simple fact that updates can't be rolled out on the spot when you have PC, Xbox, and PlayStation together. For crossplay to work across two different input devices, specifically controller and mouse and keyboard, you have to make sure things as important as simple communication are sorted. Payday 3 does not have voice chat. Console players can't even see the text chat. It's not about being able to respond on consoles. It's specifically about being able to understand. Instead of seeing text chat, everyone gets the voice wheel. But even the voice wheel is fundamentally flawed. The main resource isn't health, it's armor. And you do not have the ability to ask for armor using the voice wheel. But you do have a line for a shitty meme in a game where drills aren't the main focus anymore. So here we go to the gunplay. The selection of Payday the Heist weapons was mild. The selection of Payday 2 weapons got a bit more interesting, but was still comparatively mild, until later DLC of course. Payday 3's base selection of guns and their respective roles, however. Here's a fun fact. Ammo drops are client-sided. That means the ammo drops you see everywhere, they're only there for you. Ammo is not a huge problem in this game. The niches that every gun fills are very weak. You have a pump-action shotgun, you have a double barrel, you have a high-damage battle rifle in the SCAR, you have a few medium-damage assault rifles, a mini Uzi, and a sniper rifle that is almost entirely worthless. As for your secondaries, you have pistols and 2 revolvers. Payday the Heist was unique in that you had 3 weapon slots. For your primary, you had a low damage M4, a medium damage AK, a medium damage LMG with a ton of bullets, and a shotgun. For your secondary, you had a weak but silenced pistol, a full auto Glock, high damage revolver, and a medium damage M1911. For your tertiary, which would be the 3rd weapon slot, you had a high rate of fire MAC-10, a medium damage MP5, which was still very low damage because it's a submachine gun, and a meme pick fallback shotgun, which I actually quite adore, on top of a grenade launcher, which was the standout for the tertiary slot. But since it's DLC, power creep. It's the same thing that we saw in Payday 2, it's the same thing that we're seeing in Payday 3 already. Payday 2 took a step backwards by letting you have 2 weapons on you at any time. With that said, SMGs and the Super Shorty shotgun were classified as secondaries, so while you had 1 less slot, you still had variety. You could bring a primary shotgun and a secondary SMG. Payday 3 doesn't live up in terms of guns. When it comes to general feel, it probably is the best out of the 3, but I think that there's a lot more to be said about gameplay, which is why I feel you can't compliment the gunplay for just being more than okay. The thing that I'll have to give Payday 3 is the fact that they put a lot of effort into avoiding past mistakes. Were they successful in avoiding all these past mistakes? For the most part. But they also introduced a lot of new mistakes. Yeah. One thing that Payday 3 has massively changed over its 2 predecessors is the fact that armor is now a resource in itself. Previously, Payday the Heist and Payday 2 had a very clear bias towards the medic bag. When your health runs low and you're bound to the physical realm by the mere texture of your padded suit itself, the medic bag is a very clear favorite. Payday the Heist is less drastic, as ammo itself is also a very important resource, but the medic bag is the go-to option despite that. Payday 2, however, the medic bag became the clear favorite. If your guns don't do damage or you don't get enough ammo back from the pickups, then your skills might be messed up or you're using the wrong setup entirely. Instead of fixing this clear medic bag bias, they instead turned it from medic bag meta into armor bag meta. They switched one major resource for another and kept the problem the same. Payday 3 made health and armor work similarly. Armor is now segmented. When a chunk gets injured, it can regenerate up to a certain point while you're in cover. And when the entire chunk gets injured, it breaks and falls back down onto the next chunk. This, in theory, sounds like a good idea for a game where you have a straightforward point A to point B push. Payday is, or was, all about strategically pushing into areas, defending them, waiting out assaults before pushing onwards onto the next objective. When your health itself, as well as your armor, are both finite, however, holding out becomes extremely unfair and extremely unfun. The developers described this as death by 1,000 cuts. In theory, the intended way was for the players to get overwhelmed if they took too long, being steadily swarmed by a never-ending wave of enemies. In praxis, however, you can get overwhelmed by a singular cop, whom you just really didn't see in time. This is unfair, this is unfun, and the lack of fallback damage buffer becomes apparent on higher difficulties. The most egregious example of this might just be the Ice-T heist, 99 boxes. The outside shipping yard area is misery. Enemy design is a huge element of shooters in general. Team Fortress 2 is a masterclass of enemy and team identification. On the other side of the spectrum, there's Call of Duty, where the only way to distinguish enemies from friendlies is through name indicators anymore. But those are multiplayer games. How does enemy identification work in PvE games? It's actually very simple. The specials, as they are in Payday, have unique abilities that set them apart from all the other normal human grunt enemies. The shield is a shield. You can spot a shield from just the shape, really. A shield that pushes you aggressively is an obstacle that you either flank, run away from, or use a valuable explosive on to get rid of it. In Payday 2, shields kinda became a meme because the AI was so utterly broken that they would not give you any time to react and would just track you perfectly so you never had a chance to shoot their body. And in Payday 3, you now have a little visor that you can eventually shoot through, which is a nice change. The taser is a taser. He tases you. You are stuck in place, erratically shooting, and either a friend helps you, or you control your shaking cam just enough to get rid of the taser yourself. He sticks out from crowds thanks to his yellow electricity stripes. Payday 3's variant of the taser, now called the Zapper, because taser is actually copyrighted, works essentially the same, but he doesn't reload your weapon anymore, and he manages to be a bit more subdued in crowds of enemies. The Cloaker is weird. He's stealthy, he makes staticky radio noises, he rushes at you, he takes you down instantly. Either a friend helps you, or you're done for. A tactical cloaker can ruin an entire heist. He's the big meme for many. Payday 3 doesn't really change much about him, aside from the fact that he'll whittle away at your health until you're dead, quote unquote. A little change to make him more consistent, but it doesn't really change him much in the greater scheme. He's also a bit quieter and a bit stealthier in comparison to his Payday 2 counterpart specifically. The snipers are snipers. Unlike in Payday the Heist, snipers are specials. Also unlike Payday the Heist, snipers aren't fun to fight. In Payday the Heist, you had regenerating armor, which the sniper can penetrate, but will only do so much damage to your health in turn. On top of that, if you get shot once by a sniper and you're still out in the open, that is a skill issue that is entirely on you. Payday 3's damage buffer almost doesn't exist. A sniper can take out your entire armor bar. And if you don't have an armor bag, then you are fucked. He will just kill you instantly. It's annoying, and there is no skill issue scenario here. It's just bad game design. It's something that was quite literally done better in the past. Next up, there is the bulldozer. What is the bulldozer? A big, heavy, high damage boy who has protective armor and a ton of health, and he will rush you and he will kill you. His face is the weak spot. In Payday the Heist, you'd get satisfying glass shattering feedback, as his helmet was just one big glass ball. In Payday 2, the sound of glass shattering was replaced with metal plates. Also nice. They also added a bunch of special bulldozer variants, which for the longest time didn't count towards the bulldozer limit. We don't talk about those. Payday 2 just doesn't exist. What do we have in Payday 3? I couldn't really tell you, because I don't feel it. You don't really feel as if you're genuinely chipping away at the dozer's weak spot. You're supposed to shoot his head as usual, but the build-up towards the glass progressively breaking isn't there. It just doesn't work. This game is awesome.
What?
One of the two new enemies in Payday 3 is the Nader. The Nader basically works as a dynamic version of the scripted tear gas spawns that we had in Payday 2. There's not much to be said here. He's kind of annoying, doesn't really add that much to the overall flow of gameplay. If anything, he's a bit bullshit, but anyway, there's one more.
Just checking to see if you're still alive.
And here we are. The new enemy in Payday 3. The Techie. A gamer girl who will find random spawns in the map to hide in, before sending out a few drones at a time, which will do chip damage to you, which will overwhelm you if you don't find her and take her out. She's not very intuitive. She has this reflective armor panel that she hides behind so that she is sort of cloaked but not really. She is not very fun to fight, and she doesn't add much aside from being a genuine nuisance. As of writing this, she works in a grand total of 1 map. 1. The newest one. The DLC one. That leads me to the next point. DLC. Payday the Heist had 1 DLC, and it was a great pack. It came with new heists, it came with new weapons, it came with a new gadget. A ton of fun was had by all. Payday 2 had many DLC. There are some outliers like Big Bang, a new heist, introduction of pre-planning, a new gun, new masks, challenges. Great stuff. Payday 3 already lacks so much in its base game. Stuff that shouldn't be missing, like the ability to play offline, lack of any serious money sink, anything that'll make you feel like your money is actually worth something. And the first wave of DLC for this game was an utter disappointment. The new heist isn't fun, and the new guns do not bode well for the future of base game players. Power creep. Remember what I said earlier? What about customization though? I don't get it. I think customization is fun, but it was just never a draw for me in these games. I'm happy for those that finally get to rob banks as clowns with troll face masks on. But man, a part of me is jaded with how funky Call of Duty got with its cosmetics. But even there, I'm part of the problem. Payday 3's mask customization is just a step down. The weapon customization is level gated, much like in Call of Duty. And the suits and gloves are nice, I guess. Now, what about the music? You can't see the track name anymore when you open up the tab menu. Each heist has a song tied directly to it, which is a good thing. It's supposed to make the track stand out more, it's supposed to make the heist stand out more. Payday the Heist has a lot of great examples here. No Mercy's atmosphere is amplified by the amazing stealth section and the intense everything goes wrong loud section. Undercover is oppressive, and you feel both in the track and in the gameplay that the heist just wants you dead. Heat Street feels like a constant push and pull, like a game of catch where every catch is just another step towards your goal. Payday the Heist tracks, which were all composed by Simon Viklund, were all inherently inspired by something. Look at First World Bank, for example. That track was a direct nod to Heat, much like the rest of the heist, honestly. Payday 3's music was mostly composed by Gustavo Coutinho, who did some of the later tracks on Payday 2 as well, as far as I know. He didn't do a terrible job, however, I feel that a lot of the tracks that he made remind me of X, Y, and Z, rather than holy fuck, Heat Street, or holy fuck, I want to play Counterfeit again. What I mean by that is, one of the tracks sounds exactly like an Andrew Holschult Doom Eternal / Dusk track. Another one sounds like that one meme track from Cyberpunk 2077. Payday 3 just doesn't have any track that kicks out to me directly. The one that I like the most is actually the one used in the tutorial, and that is kind of sad. Payday 2's early tracks were all stellar and equally as inspired. They even branched out on styles later on. But Payday 3's tracks are just all over the place, and they don't really manage to overwhelm nor inspire. They are there and they are okay, but they're not much more than that. To be fair, I'm mostly talking about Payday the Heist here, where the entire game was entirely inspired by other media. So let's talk about something. Something that I think makes that game stick out quite a lot, in spite of its derivative nature. Every heist feels grand. The steady escalation from entry to exit gets better with each heist in the game, and makes every heist just a joy to play, really. First World Bank is a tutorial heist, and is an amazing playable movie scene-like experience. You enter quietly, you mask up, you drill the gate open, burn through the roof of the vault, grab the money inside, run back out to the upper management area, explode a back wall, make a run for your life before finally escaping through the garage. It is a quick and dirty job, and one that could be taken directly out of a movie like Heat. The next one is a bit on the nose. Heat Street. Heat Street takes the run for your life parts of First World Bank and pushes it into becoming its own thing. You get double-crossed, and the traitor escapes just after taunting you. You follow him on foot through busy, comp-riddled streets before he eventually crashes in a local parking lot. You use scattered gas cans to torture him until he comes out of the van willingly, before pushing him into an impromptu escape zone where you're being picked up by a helicopter, all the while still under fire from local law enforcement. The jump from one to the other is already incredible, and you genuinely feel like you're playing a movie scene. Heat Street is one of my favorite heists across all three games, and I haven't even properly finished it on Overkill 145+, the highest difficulty in that game. Payday 3's first heist is poorly optimized, has a relatively nice stealth section that can go loud at any time and turn into action, which is nice. It is also generally very easy, as well as being easily pick up and play. It doesn't do much, and it doesn't really feel super grand from a purely visual standpoint, but for a first heist, a glorified tutorial heist, I think it's fine. It doesn't rival First World Bank and Payday the Heist as a tutorial heist, but I also don't think it's trying to do just that. The follow-up to that one, Road Rage, is a mix of several Payday the Heist levels, Green Bridge, Heat Street kind of, but even in taking inspiration from something that is already done before, it manages to just be boring in comparison. My personal favorite Payday 3 heist, the Golden Shark Bank heist, manages to just barely rival the first heist in Payday the Heist. Payday 3 tries to be a lot more grounded, much like Payday 2 was at release, which doesn't make for an overall enjoyable experience. The styles and systems clash, the fun factor doesn't reach highs of old, and it's not because I've grown 10 years since Payday 2 has come out. Over the past few months, and the entire reason why I'm making this video is because Payday 3 made me want to play Payday the Heist. I play the game I did. I've been enjoying it with a bunch of people. I've had randoms join, we played a few heists and exchanging little to no words, just kind of vibing and having fun. Something that is so rare nowadays. Payday 3 can't even get that right. If you're trying to play with publics, you need to be lucky that someone in the same server region as you chooses the same heist on the same difficulty as you at the same time. If you're in a heist, you have a minute before drop-in closes. No more drop-in for you from that point forward. Unless it's a friend who joins you through Steam, but if you're a Payday player, there's a chance you don't have friends. Payday the Heist and Payday 2 let you drop in at any moment, at any time. We had it better 10 years ago, and that is something that I simply don't understand. Payday 3 does not feel like a game that came out in 2023. It doesn't. It feels lean. It feels weak. It feels inferior to what came before it. And I haven't even talked about any of the intricate game design things, such as level design or skills. And that is because I simply don't care anymore. As I said way earlier at the beginning of the Payday 3 segment specifically, I just didn't have the hype leading up to this game's release. I wasn't even going to buy it until someone bought it for me. Given I was happy that I was playing it with friends, I was also kind of happy to just be able to check it out. But after the time I spent with it, I think I've just come to the conclusion that this is not the game that I wanted. And it probably isn't going to turn into something that I'd recommend to my friends. I've decided that I'd give Payday 3 a total of 3 ratings. The first one is Payday 3 in comparison to Payday 2. I'll consider what Payday 3 has over Payday 2, and I'll give it a rating based on that. The second one is Payday 3 on its own. What does it have for people that have never played Payday before? I'll give it a rating based on that. The third and last one is Payday 3 in comparison to Payday the Heist. The rough sketch of what this franchise would become. I'll give Payday 3 a rating based on how it compares to that. The first one. Payday 3 to Payday 2. Out of 10, I'd give Payday 3 a 7. I think it is generally better. It's playable, it doesn't keep you around for too long, but it also doesn't have the content of Payday 2. It has better gameplay flow, it's more concise. If I compared it to the old Payday 2 though, I think it would be something along the lines of like a 5. Which is where we go to the second rating. Payday 3 on its own. Again, out of 10, probably a 5 or a strong 4. I don't know, this game doesn't really offer anything exceptional to someone who generally likes co-op shooters that other games in that genre just couldn't do but better. And as for the last rating, Payday 3 in direct comparison to Payday the Heist. Out of 10, a 3. I love Payday the Heist. And Payday 3 is just so weak in comparison. It's not a direct 1 rating, because Payday 3 does have a few things that it does better. But I'd rather play through Heat Street 10 times in a row than play Payday 3 for an hour. And the fact that I can do that with randoms at any given time is a bonus. Payday 3 I genuinely need to ask people over, and I don't like asking. So this is where we are now. I wanted to make a video about Payday 3 for the longest time, and I've just never actually gotten myself to do so. I've been playing some other games here and there. I finished a lot of things that I wanted to finish, and the year is finally coming to a close. I felt as if it would be a great idea if I went ahead and finished the project that I wanted to do for the longest time. I will go back to playing some Payday the Heist. I might even go and check out some Payday 2 rebalance mods, but I really don't like the idea of them. I think if the game itself is already fundamentally flawed, trying to rebalance it through mods is like... it shouldn't be the draw. If the game itself isn't fun already, I don't want to mod it, if that makes any sense. But other than that, I'll probably just move on. My COD phase is over, my Payday phase is over. I wonder what the future holds for me. I'm excited. A tiny bit. I know you can definitely hear it in my voice how excited I am. Yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video. The like button should glow right now. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The subscribe button should also be glowing right now. And aside from that, yeah, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.